Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Silver Spring. My name is Sydney. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am this morning's worship associate. This morning, we will hear from Reverend Kristin, Reverend Dr. Laura, and some colleagues from some of their colleagues from Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. The service uses the lens of the recent Disney movie Encanto to talk about history and the importance of talking about even the challenging things in our past. You'll hear some music from Encanto as well. Today's service is a multi-generational service, which means all children and youth are invited to remain here in the sanctuary. If you're joining us on Zoom, now is the time to go and grab a candle and something to light it with. That way, you can light your own flaming chalice as we light the chalice in the sanctuary in a few minutes. But first, let's take a moment to thank everyone who has made today's service possible. May this light warm our hearts with love and caring and guide us in the ways of truth. As we gather here for worship, we pledge ourselves to the endless search for truth, to the right of each to believe as mind, heart, and conscience dictate, and respect the responsibility this freedom commands, and to implement our belief in the essential worth and dignity of every human being. May it be so.
For our invocation this morning, we share a blessing for the risk takers and failures by Robin Tanner. Today we share in a blessing for losers, risk takers, all failures far and wide. Blessed are they who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego, for they shall know the sweetness of risk.
Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good but impact has injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness.
Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or C or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and the labels as less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect.
Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret to dreams.
Blessed are they who refuse to listen to the naysayers, for their hearts will be houses of hope.
Blessed are they who see beyond the surface of another, for they will be able to delight in the gift of compassion.
Blessed are they who stop running the race to help a fellow traveler, who pick up the fallen, who stop for injured life, for they shall know the kindness of strangers.
Blessed are they who wildly, boldly abandon winning, for they shall know the path of justice. Let's rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn, Where Do We Come From? It's 10,003 in the Teal Songbook. The words will also be on the screen.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. So this will take a little crowd prep. We have here. I'll just teach each of the parts. There are 4 parts, but it looks like the room is divided into 2. So everyone from here on over is group A, and everyone from here on over is group B, and group B as well. If you can give me an F, Phyllis. So I'll teach each of the 4 parts, but what we do is each of the parts is repeated once, and then you go to the next one. So when we get to the round, just remember to repeat. So we go, where do we come from? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And part 2 is, where do we come from? Where do we come from? Good, you got the, so getting a sense of those repeats there. And then the third part, mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. And the fourth part, where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Let's do it all together now. Group A and B with the repeats. 1, 2, 3. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we go? Second part. Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Part 4, where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where, start on this side, alone here. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we go on? And where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where will we come from? Where are... Go back to 1. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where? Repeat 1. Together. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? I always love unresolved endings. Preach, yes.
I invite any kids who are sitting towards the back, if you would like to come up towards the front and sit in chairs up front, you will be able to see better if you would like. Our time for all ages is going to be in 2 parts today, so you might want to stay in those chairs up towards the front. So who has seen the movie Encanto? Oh yes, lots of us. Amazing. I love that movie, and you're going to hear some things that me and Reverend Kristin and some of our friends have learned from it. You'll also hear some music later in the service from this movie, and I bet you'll be able to sing along. They sound amazing. So, do you remember the house in Encanto? Yes. Okay, great. What was special about the house? It was magical, it sure was. But then what happened to the house? It was breaking. What was happening to the house? It was starting to fall apart. And what made the house become magical again? Onyx.
Building it back up.
Building it back up. How did they build it back up?
The same way how it used to be.
The same way how it used to be. Yep, Amethyst.
The whole town came together.
Everybody came together. That's right, Simone. Teamwork, absolutely, absolutely. Great. So yeah, there were cracks in the foundation that happened because there were secrets that were hurting the family. There are a lot of things that can support our foundations. Foundations of our families and of our school communities and our church communities too. So I wonder what you can think of that helps to form a strong foundation. What goes into a strong foundation, Charlotte?
Can you repeat your question?
Yes, what helps make a strong foundation?
Working together in teamwork.
Working together in teamwork. Reverend Kristin, could you put a block down for working together in teamwork? That is a block of a strong foundation. What else goes into a strong foundation in a community? Adults can chime in too. This is a multi-generational service.
Telling the truth.
Telling the truth, absolutely. Yep, that gets another block. What else goes into a strong foundation? Yes. Love goes into a strong foundation. Let's get one more. Desmond? Helping goes into a strong foundation, that's right. I bet you can also think of some things that would hurt that strong foundation. For each thing that hurts our strong foundation, we're going to take a block away. What's an example of something that would hurt the foundation? Onyx? Lying would take a block away. That's absolutely right. Yep, block gets taken away for that. What else? Conflict. Conflict would take a block away. That's right. What else? Charlotte? Being rude would take a block away. Exactly. Awesome. Desmond, do you have one more?
We could,
Did you forget? Yeah, that's okay. So we're going to keep building our house in a little while, and I'm going to need your help again too. But in the meantime, I want you to listen to the things that can help us to build strong foundations. Listen for those things and see if you can hear them as we talk later in the service. All right? Great.
So I invite you now into our time of joys and sorrows. This act of deep sharing and deep listening is one of the ways that we strengthen this congregation's foundation. And as such, it's a time to bear witness, not to announcements, but to the most wonderful and painful parts of our lives. Those who wish to share can come forward now. You can make a line right here down the aisle if you wish. And please make sure to speak from the microphone in the stand. And Sydney will be able to help you light a candle if you would like to do that as well. And after each person shares, we will say together, in every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. So I say, in every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. All right. Who has a joy or a sorrow they'd like to share?
My name is Laura Ellis, and as many of you know, I lost my mother a couple months ago, and my father has Parkinson's, and he is slowly losing his ability to remember.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief. Here.
I have a joy. My little brother Ben is here visiting from Colorado. We've had a lovely visit. He leaves this afternoon. We've walked. Oh my God, I've probably taken off 5 pounds in the walking he's done with me. But I'm really glad to have had him. It's been great.
Thank you, Sally.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond.
My name's Emily Harris, and I have 2 joys. One is that my sister Jane is here to visit from Washington State. She's not actually here at the moment. She went to visit a niece in Northern Maryland. It's really the first time we've had anybody in our house since the pandemic, so it was a little nerve-wracking for me. But it's really fun seeing her. And my brother, who lives in Delaware, came on Friday, so we had like a mini family reunion. There's one more sibling, but she couldn't be there, so it was really nice. And the other joy is one of our dogs, Luna, was very ill and didn't really know what was wrong with her. And we still don't know what's wrong with her, but she's recovered and hopefully will be fully recovered. She's back to her normal self, pretty much. So we're really grateful for that.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
Hi, I'm Catherine Leeds, and
I'm Steve Lee.
we're going to light a candle for LaTanya, who's in hospice. I'm going to visit her today.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
My joy is that I had a good week, and my sorrow is that someone said to my sister Amethyst, no one wants to see her ugly face, to my sister Amethyst.
In every joy and sorrow and rude moment, we are held in love beyond belief.
I have a sorrow that somebody said nobody wants to see her ugly face to me, like my brother said.
Sorry that happened. In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
So I have 2 joys. The first is that I was doing a job in MCPS since October, but I wasn't appointed to that position, so I had to interview for it, and now I'm official. So I am currently a curriculum specialist with English Language Arts, so that's been a really great journey for me. And you know, my other joy is to see my kid up here. So just seeing her back involved in the church, and now I have company. You know, she gets up with me and she comes here and we have conversations, so it's really great having my kid with me here.
In every joy and sorrow, we are held in love beyond belief.
Do you have a joy or sorrow? Do you have a joy or sorrow? No? Okay, all right.
Won't you please join with me in prayer? Spirit of life, God, whose other name is love, We give thanks this morning for all of life's joys, especially all those whose love and commitment, skill, good humor, talent, and money give this church such a strong foundation. We give thanks that we can bring the fullness of who we are into this community, that this is a congregation that shows up for one another and our values in moments that matter. Together with the many joys shared aloud, we lift up our Muslim friends, family, and neighbors as the holy month of Ramadan began on Friday night. Ramadan Mubarak to all who celebrate. May this month be filled with reflection, joy, and community. And on this Sunday after the Trans Day of Visibility, we give thanks for the trans people in our congregation, in our lives, and in our communities. We give thanks for gender fluid folks, gender benders, gender nonconformists. May the spirit of love grant them joy in their lives, in their bodies, in their relationships. Together with that spirit, may we all create a world where everyone's unique gifts are celebrated, where all persons are cherished as love itself embodied. For all of the sorrows shared this morning and for the sorrows that are too deep for words, let us open our minds and hearts and lend our prayers. We lift up the people of Afghanistan who are suffering from hunger and oppression, especially the relatives of the Thina family. We pray for all nations whose democracies are under threat, from Tunisia to Hungary and right here in the United States. We hold in prayer all living in war zones, from Syria to Somalia to Ukraine. In the midst of life's pain and suffering, in the face of the hard things happening in our neighborhoods and in the world around us, help us remember, Spirit of Life, that all seasons will one day come to an end. All tyrants will one day fall. And though the world might feel in the grip of other things, it is justice and freedom and truth that endure. Help us remember that though none of us is perfect, though we all make mistakes, though we all at times cause harm, though we all must say sorry sometimes, that each and every one of us also has a blessing, and with it, we can bless the world. In this community of gratitude and grief, celebration and mourning, forgiveness and blessing, in the fullness of all that life brings us, there is a love holding us. Amen.
And you just heard the accompaniment to the next song that we'll sing, which is not in our hymnal, but it's something that's ended up on Worship Web. We have all these hymns floating around the universe that someday that may end up being another hymnal. Would be nice. The last one was in 2004. So this is There Is a Love, and you can sing along with me. I'll do the first iteration of it, and then you can join me on the second one. It's there is a love holding me, there is a love holding all that I love, and there is a love holding all, I rest in this love. And then on the last time we sing we. So we'll start with the personal and go to the community with it. So, where's Phyllis? There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. Go back and do it again. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding on. We rest in this love. Just the last part. We rest in this love. Once more. We rest in this love.
Even if you haven't seen the movie Encanto, you have likely heard some of the buzz around it. Whether because of the many awards it was nominated for, or because of the music, or just because of the rare cultural representation depicted in this Disney film, Encanto has made quite a stir among individuals of all ages. For those who have not seen the movie, it is set in Colombia and tells the story of the Madrigal family. In this family, everyone has been given a magical power, a gift. Everyone except Mirabel. Over the course of the movie, we learn that this magic is in danger, but Mirabel manages to save the magic by bringing the family together and starting the process of healing old wounds. You have likely heard the hit song from this movie, We Don't Talk About Bruno. If not, you'll hear it later in today's service. I find it fascinating and telling that this song has resonated with so many people. While the catchy tune is certainly a piece of it, I also believe we have a very human hunger to talk about the things we collectively decide we cannot or should not talk about in our lives. It's important to note that I come to this movie from my perspective as a white, cisgender, queer, Jewish woman, a viewpoint that misses most of the cultural perspective and nuance of the Colombian culture, or at least the Colombian culture as it is shown to us in this film through the eyes of its Disney creators. What I do know is the way my Jewish family has coped with many Brunos, the way we have adapted and learned to make it through without talking about many of the incredibly hard and challenging things we have encountered, both as a family and culturally as Jews. My bubby, my grandmother, would often greet us with things like, "You look so good, Baruch Hashem. Tell me what's good. It's good to be good, right? We only talk about good things." We only talk about good things. In other words, we don't talk about Bruno. As a minister and as a psychologist, I have found family systems theory to be an incredibly helpful framework for understanding many of the systems of our lives, our family systems, but also other systems we may be part of, our workplaces, for example, our churches, and our denomination. Family systems theory, developed originally by Dr. Murray Bowen in the 1960s, enables us to look at the interactions that occur within any system and the ways those interactions maintain the balance or the status quo of a system, or they disrupt it. An analogy I like to use is a hanging mobile. If you take off a piece of a hanging mobile, if you change it and move the pieces around, it will become unbalanced. That doesn't mean it can't become balanced again, or that it may not actually be better balanced in a different configuration. It just means that every shift changes the way all the elements in the system hang in the balance. Many systems, most systems even, have a Bruno, a thing they don't talk about. This is often wise for a time and adaptive. There is no shame in not talking about the hard and painful things. But there comes a time when the thing we're calling Bruno becomes its own point of unbalance in the mobile, when the secret or the pain or the thing that cannot be discussed holds so much weight and power that it prevents balance and health within the system. It is then that things need to change. Often, when that unmentionable thing is brought into the open, there is a disruption for a time. All the pieces of the mobile need to shift after all, and to change the balance and the weight distribution within the system. Once those changes are made, a new normal, a new homeostasis can settle. I remember at one particularly memorable Passover dinner in my family, a generations-old family secret was revealed. There was palpable grinding and shifting and swinging back and forth as all the parts of the mobile, all the people in the family system tried to accommodate new information, a new understanding of their family. What also happened, though, was that once those pieces slipped into place, some of our current ways of functioning made more sense. The habits and interactions of particular family members suddenly had new context. We were able to hang in a new balance, a balance that was moving towards one of greater freedom and health. Of course, family systems theory is much more complicated and nuanced, and it's important to note that it was developed by a white man who was looking at the inner workings of systems from his perspective. We still need systems theories that reflect the diversity of systems in our world and the myriad ways health can manifest in different cultures. And I believe that regardless of culture, the things we won't talk about hold us back from freedom, from liberation, and from love. Let's talk about our Brunos.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. But it was my wedding day. We were getting ready and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Bruno walks in with a mischievous grin.
Thunder.
Are you telling this story or am I?
I'm sorry, me to go home.
Bruno says it looks like rain.
Why does he tell us?
So he floods my brain.
Gets the umbrella.
Married in a hurricane.
What a joyous day, but anyway.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. Living here with the stuttering or tumbling. I can always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling. I associate him with the sound of falling sand. It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always left away and the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they could not understand. Do you understand?
7-foot frame wraps along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams and feasts on your screams. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. He told me my fish would die the next day.
He told me I drove a gut, and just like he said.
No, no, my hair would disappear. Now look at my head. No, no.
Your fate is sealed when your prophecy is read.
me that the man of my dreams would be just out of reach. Betrothed to another is like I hear him
Hey, sis.
now.
I want not
It's like
a sound
I hear
out of
him now.
you.
I can hear him now. Bruno. Yeah, about that Bruno. I really need to know about Bruno. Give me the truth and the whole truth, Bruno.
He said, "Hello, your boyfriend's here.
Time for dinner.
A 7-foot frame wraps along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams and feasts on his dreams.
Why did I talk about Bruno?
Not a word about Bruno.
I never should have brought up Bruno.
When we asked y'all to sing that song, I had no idea it was gonna manage to be all of that. It's amazing. Thank you so much. So you remember that we were building a house and we were trying to make a strong foundation. When I think about our Unitarian Universalist history, I think about many things that gave us a strong foundation. Things that we talked about before, people who tell the truth and who are committed to loving one another and who act in responsible ways. All of that is important. But I'm curious about what you think about these next parts of our history. I'm going to want you to tell me whether these are pieces that deserve a strong foundation block or whether we should take a block away. Listen carefully. So before there were Unitarians in the US, there were Congregationalists. Congregationalists believe that everyone in the church should have a vote and a voice. What do you think? Is that a strong foundation, having a vote and a voice? Yeah. Thumbs up, absolutely. We've got a vote and a voice. They also believed that the power lies in the people of the congregation. Is that a thumbs up too? Power lies in the people? Absolutely, power in the people. Let's add another block. But what about this? The Puritans are the people who started colonizing the United States. That means that they were some of the first people who started taking over the indigenous people's land and saying it belonged to them because they were white. What do we do with that? We take a block away for that. That is not a very loving foundation to build on. So we take a block away. Uh-oh, our foundation's getting shaky. But Unitarians believed in democracy. Does democracy get a block? Democracy gets a block, absolutely. And lots of Unitarians and Universalists fought for things like women's rights and against things like slavery. And those things get blocks too. But not all Unitarians and Universalists agreed in the fight against slavery. What do we do with that? We take a block away for that. That's not a very strong foundation. Throughout history, Unitarians, Universalists, and Unitarian Universalists have fought for refugees and for civil rights. Those would all get blocks for sure. But then there have also been times when white Unitarian Universalists have made decisions that have not supported Black Unitarian Universalists or other people of color in our faith. And white people have had a really hard time talking about some of the bad decisions that were made. We have to take a block away for that too. But we have a mostly strong foundation. It's great to see the way that our house is coming and building up nice and strong. But it's important to know that this house could be stronger and it could be taller, except for those pieces we had to take out. It's sad to think about what Unitarian Universalists have missed out on because of those cracks in our foundations. I know that we are all working hard to create the strongest, most loving foundation we can for Unitarian Universalism today. And I'm so glad to be part of creating that strong foundation with all of you.
I like to be in America, okay by me in America. I grew up singing that song, dancing around the house. Rita Moreno is a saint in my family. Many of you will recognize that from West Side Story, but West Side Story was one of the first ways that I recognized myself and my family growing up in a way that other people saw too. They had an Anita, a Maria, and they even said it that way. And maybe I wasn't so alone, and also, it was not my story. It was not my story. But it did help me understand a little bit of what my grandparents tried to teach me. My family that remembered coming here from Argentina, and those that came here from Sicily and Italy. And what they tried to teach me about how they survived in this culture. And for us, even on kind of both sides of my family, there wasn't much we wouldn't talk about. Whenever 2 or more of us are gathered, it sounds like 30 plus. Because any emotion, any thought that's had is suddenly spoken into the face, into the space and into the face, frankly. And sometimes the response is, I will cook for you, which also means music and dancing. Or we just skip right to music and dancing as we laugh and we talk about the hard things. When I think about Encanto, there is still a place where I'm able to find some connection, some recognition, and it sparks within me some questions about what don't I talk about? What's my Bruno and what's my family's Bruno? And for me, it's not so much about what in my family we don't say to each other, but what we don't say to people outside of the family, because it wasn't always safe for us to be fully ourselves. And what, as your minister, have I not said to you? And it makes me think about Bruno himself and my reaction to Bruno in the film, this wonderful prophet, because prophecy is real to us in my family. We have prophets, people who are sometimes called clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and I grew up knowing that magic was real, and it wasn't apart from us, it was us. My mother, who is an armchair Unitarian, allergic to all things church, experiences the holy in every living moment of the day. She dances with it, cries with it, moves with it, and this is the story of my people that I do not always share with you. And that is where I've removed a building block of beloved community. But I believe in you, and I believe in me, and I believe in us. So I'm going to put that block back in the foundation today as we talk about our Brunos together. And maybe we can even dance some, and maybe we can cook for each other. But let's do it together. Amen.
Hello, Silver Spring. I'm so happy to be with you today. I am the Reverend Dana Edwards, and my pronouns are she and her. talking about Bruno is hard. In the movie Encanto, talking about Bruno, their truth-telling brother and uncle, literally almost breaks the family. So we are going to talk about some hard things. We're going to do some truth-telling today. And if this feels like too much, or if you need support, I know your ministers and pastoral lay leaders are there to help you through this. In my culture, as a working class Irish, Italian, Bostonian, we said, keep your head down and your mouth shut. That was our "we don't talk about Bruno" phrase. The cultural water I swam in growing up in the 80s and 90s in Boston was full of hazardous material. There have been many movies made about the scandals that rocked Boston at that time, and yet still, even now, it feels impossible for me to name those scandals publicly. Because you keep your head down and your mouth shut. You don't talk about Bruno. So when I started my career as a religious educator in 2011, I didn't know who or what the Brunos were in Unitarian Universalism. And so I decided for Black History Month, I wanted to feature a Black UU for each day of February on a bulletin board and on this cool new social media platform called Facebook. And 2 different ministers that I approached about that idea said, well, I don't know that you'll find 28 different Black UUs in our history. And their body language told me, you keep your head down and your mouth shut. You don't talk about Bruno. I felt just like the main character in Encanto, Mirabel. Like Mirabel, I was confused and perhaps naive. I said, why? Why don't we talk about Bruno? And like Mirabel, I was met with nervous laughter as the ministers checked their watches and shuffled away. And like Mirabel, it felt like a matter of survival for me as I raised my own children of color to find out why we, UUs, don't talk about race. I sat with that question for years until I took a class with UU historian, the Reverend Dr. Mark Morrison Reed, and I heard him actually talk about Bruno. With his voice shaking and a tear in his eye, he said, we UUs of color have always been here. We have always been here. So there were, in fact, way more than 28 Black UUs in our history. But each time, historical white UUs chose their comfort over inclusion, or chose their purse over the prophetic voices of marginalized people. Those choices caused cracks in our foundation. One of those biggest cracks occurred between 1967 and 1970. This was the big Bruno moment of our faith's history. Some of you might remember this time, and for others, this must sound like ancient history. And there's no way I can go into all the nuance of what happened in our movement during those years. But when I asked, why were there not more UUs of color, and I didn't stop asking, people finally pointed me towards the events of General Assembly in 1968 and 1969. And General Assembly is the largest yearly gathering of Unitarian Universalists where the business of the denomination is conducted. So let's talk about Bruno. Let's talk about this hard thing. In 1967, Black UUs began to organize and developed a Black caucus. Some might say they offered a prophetic voice in our faith. In 1968, at the General Assembly, Black UUs were promised $1 million over the course of 4 years. Unfortunately, factions formed and fighting ensued as the system tried to rebalance its mobile. People's identities were formed and reformed through this balancing. But it turned out the UUA didn't have $1 million to give, and there was a contingency to the agreement. The UUA wanted the Black Affairs Council, the group of people to whom the money had been promised, to come back to GA each year to get a reaffirmation of the commitment from the UUA. And Reverend Dr. Mark Morrison Reed reports that back treasurer Ben Scott said, "It was also traumatic. I'm not the only UU who was irreversibly shaped by it. Thousands were born again. They came to a better understanding of the whole world through back. They came to a thrilling sense of the awesome potential of human society." But he goes on to say, "In our little UU corner of the world, lifelong friendships crumbled, marriages dissolved, careers were ended, and congregations factionalized." Reed says Scott's words only hint at the intensity of the feelings. For many, what happened in the ensuing years would be nothing less than life-defining. So our dominant culture wants us to pick sides, to create a binary. And in telling this story, I am resisting the urge to distill the story to two sides. I'm taking a note from the movie Encanto. There are no good guys or bad guys in that movie, just complicated people with complicated motivations. And the same holds true for those living through the events of 1967 to 1970. The intensity of emotion at that 1969 General Assembly in Boston caused back members and their allies to walk out of the building. I don't feel that I, who was not there, can properly convey the level of emotion that still to this day comes up for people when they discuss that particular GA. It's like the scene from Encanto when the candle that held the magic of the family falls from the window and the house crumbles around it. Devastation is the only word that comes to mind. But instead of a moment of healing and truth-telling like we see in the movie, many UUs tried to go on to move around the crack to say, "I don't see race. I don't talk about Bruno." And this way of being, this walking around the cracks, continued for about 40 years. UUs continued to say, "We only talk about happy things. You keep your head down and your mouth shut. Don't talk about Bruno," until 2017, when the foundation cracked again. But that's a story for another day. And know this. After the events of 2017, instead of keeping their heads down and their mouths shut, a brilliant group of UU theologians and thought leaders came together and started to gather stories. Not only did they talk about Bruno, but they embodied the spirit of the character of Bruno in the movie, sharing prophetic wisdom from their heart with care and concern for this, their beloved faith. They collected their work into a book called Widening the Circle of Concern and made it accessible by publishing it on the UUA website and offering an audio version as well. The authors state, "While we work towards a total liberation for all, we must acknowledge the hurts that can be healed, the faults that can be fixed, and the repair possible among communities suffering from the material outcomes of hundreds of years of oppression. When we acknowledge the hurts, fix the faults, and repair in earnest, we, like the family Madrigal, can rebuild our spiritual home. As Reverend Laura says, we can recalibrate the system's mobile so that it's more equally balanced on all sides. It won't be easy, but the Widening the Circle of Concern report gives us a blueprint. May we all do what we can to make this world a more just and equitable place. Amen.
What powerful words we just heard. This congregation is in the midst of our annual budget drive, a time each year when we invite everyone who calls this congregation their own to make a financial pledge. After the offering today, Jake Ryder will share about why they pledge to UUCSS. In addition to the pledges we make about how much we will give to this community over the course of the next church year, each week we have an opportunity to make a financial offering. You can pay towards your pledge during the offering, and you can give in addition to your pledges. Either way, this congregation is possible not because we sell tickets to Sunday worship or charge for religious education. It is possible because of your generosity. As you can see on the screen, there are many ways to give your gift to UUCSS. If you are here in person, you can also place your offering in one of the offering plates as it is passed around. The offering will now be given and received with gratitude.
Don't be upset or mad at all. Don't feel regret or sad at all. Hey, I'm still a part of the family Madrigal, and I'm fine, I'm totally fine. I will stand on the side as you shine. I'm not fine, I'm not fine. I can't move the mountains. I can't make the flowers bloom. I can't take another night up in my room, waiting on a miracle. I can't heal what's broken. Can't control the morning rain or a hurricane. Can't keep down the unspoken, invisible pain. Always waiting on a miracle, a miracle. Always walking alone. Always wanting for more. Like I'm still at that door, longing to shine. Like all of you shine. All I need is a change. All I need is a chance. All I know is I can't stay on the side. Open your eyes, open your eyes, open your eyes. I would move the mountains, make new trees and flowers grow. Someone please just let me know, where do I go? I am waiting on a miracle, a miracle. I would heal what's broken. Show this family something new. Who am I inside? So what can I do? I'm on a miracle. So here I go. I am ready. Come on, I'm ready. I've been patient and steadfast and steady. Bless me now as you blessed us all those years ago, when you gave us a miracle. Am I too late for a miracle?
It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Jake Ryder, who I think needs no introduction, but I am so glad that they are here to share why they pledge to UUCSS.
Hi. Hello. Good morning to the folks who are joining us from afar. Good morning to the folks that are joining us from near. As I've been so kindly introduced, my name is Jake Ryder. I use they, them, and I have lost my place in the script. And I'm having fun being on both sides of the cameras today. So I have been asked up here to talk about why I pledge, or more broadly, what this church means to me. But I have not been given a time limit, so I am going to do that, but I'm going to do it in a sort of a meandering way. Come, get lost with me. When I find myself, as I so often do, in the position of casually telling people that I'm part of a liberal faith which has roots in Christianity but doesn't demand belief in higher power, which draws inspiration from a variety of spiritual and secular sources, and which ends up as something akin to a, humanist philosophical club, my favorite part are the variety of responses we get from that. Sometimes it's, sounds like you're either a Unitarian Universalist or in some sort of cult, maybe both. Sometimes it's more, oh, I've heard of that. It's more like a volunteer or an organization of volunteers than like a church. Is that right? And if you're my partner, sometimes it's, you're doing a service about Encanto? You really did join the fun church. And I think all of those are pretty correct. So, why am I here? I grew up coming to this church. That's a big factor. It's been almost a decade since I stood here, right here, in front of all of you and more, and told you how this church helped me find my voice, myself, my who I want to be. It's still a work in progress, and it's satisfying work. It's also important to note that I left the church for a couple years, mostly because I was at college several states away, and it's a bit of a walk. Partially because adulthood came with strange and impossible expectations of complete independence. And now I'm back. So why is that? The reason I'm here is complicated. It's working with other folks passionate about social justice to put our shared faith into action, cherishing our progress and contemplating what's next. It's putting my head together with fellow nerds to figure out worship in a pandemic, cheering on what works and laughing with what doesn't. It's returning to RE as a teacher and learning alongside these teens who are smarter, more creative, and way funnier than me, but I'm catching up. It's hearing and being heard by ministers and committee chairs and old friends and musicians and assorted volunteers and RE coordinators and people who knew me when I was small and people who I know differently now and people who I still don't know yet. So, the reason I'm here is simple. It's knowing that we're capable of so much more wisdom and love and change together than any of us could be on our own. That's why I'm here. That's why I pledge my money and my time and myself to this congregation, and it's why I hope you can too. Thanks much.
Thank you, Jake. And now I'd like to invite forward Tamara Bowman to give us an update on how the annual budget drive is going. It's good.
It is going, and it is very good. And I would like to point out that I was the RE teacher for Jake when he was in 3rd grade. It's been a minute. Oh, this is, believe it or not, only the 3rd week, the end of the 3rd week of the annual budget drive. At this point, I would like to thank all of my stewards and everyone who has already pledged. Thank you very much. And I would also like to show the traditional participometer. To give, so you know what to expect. My artist is in Richmond, and she can't come down here to help me out. We are better than 50%. We are going for the triple scoop. The exact amount is $258,695 that we have raised so far. And thank you so much. I would also like to point out that this, you can still get in on the lunch on Reverend Kristin's deck if you pledge before the end of the day today. That drawing will be announced next Sunday. And next Sunday, I hope to put at least part of a scoop up here for the second scoop.
It's a raffle that some of you will be chosen. Sadly, I can't fit everybody who pledged by the end of today on my desk. It's a raffle.
Okay, I did not mean to imply that. We'll be drawing, and the winners will be announced on next Sunday. You also need to prepare yourself for April 24th, which will be our celebration with ice cream truck, which is why we have the ice cream scoops. We will provide the ice cream. Bring your own camp chairs. And we hope to have music and just games and just enjoy being with each other if the weather continues like this. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Michael, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see you coming up.
All right, shall we rise in body or in spirit and sing? We are building a new way, building a new way. We have hopefully all of the verses up there. We also have return to the first at the end. So shall we? We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free, to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free from hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Sing this one out, this next one. We can feed free. Peace and freedom is our crime. Peace and freedom is our crime. Peace and freedom is our crime. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our crime. Building a new world. Building a new way. Building a new way. A new way. We are building a new way. Building a new way. Feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. Thank you.
Please join me in the words of chalice extinguishing. Although we extinguish our chalice, we know that each of us carries the magic forth in our lives. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Okay, y'all, I've got 3 announcements before I can give the benediction. They're good, they're good. Number 1, mark your calendars for the UUCSS Seder on Friday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. We will be sending out an email with sign-up information this week, but the important things to know are that everyone's invited to come. All who can bring a dish to share are encouraged to do so. We'll be having our Seder dinner outside under a big tent that we've rented just for this occasion, and please make sure to sign up if you plan to come. We don't want there to not be enough food. Like, I don't know if I could emotionally handle not everybody having enough food at a dinner event at this church. Number 2, I also hope you'll join us on Easter Sunday, which is 2 Sundays from now, for an uplifting service, a fun RE activity for the kids, and all of it will be followed by an egg hunt. You won't want to miss it. Yes, I know. And then number 3, please plan to join us the last Sunday of this month. Tamara already mentioned it. It is our Earth Day service, during which we will officially welcome our new RE coordinator, Dominique Robinson-Coleman. Woohoo! And our office administrator, Jeanette Jackson. Oh, and we'll be concluding our annual budget drive and enjoying ice cream outside. So you won't want to miss any of that. Now, I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, link elbows, hold hands, place a hand on someone's shoulder, whatever you're comfortable with. If you don't want to touch or don't want to be touched, that's okay too. This is a community of consent, okay? Now, none of us may be able to move mountains. None of us may be able to heal all that is broken. None of us may be able to control the weather, but we can all talk about life's Brunos. It's never too late for a miracle. And each and every one of us has a blessing we can use to bless this world. Let's get out there and do it. Our worship now has ended and our service begins.
Bye.